Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, and everyone joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nawal Al-Mansouri. I am the manager of Emiratization at EFS. I'm delighted to be joined today by the Chief Operating Officer of Emirates Foundation, Mr. Mohanna Al-Moheri, and Tarak Chauhan, the CEO of EFS Group, who will discuss the successful results emerging from the fruitful partnership between their two organizations in the field of Emiratization through flexible working conditions. Shortly, we will have an interview discussion during which we hope you will discover more about how Dawamee and EFS have achieved their joint aspirations since launching their partnership. But first of all, let me welcome the Emirates Foundation COO, Mr. Mohanna Al-Moheri, for a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Nawal. As you know, Emirates Foundation is involved in different projects. And all of the projects that Emirates Foundation work on are projects to help empowering the UAE national across the nation. And this will not going to happen without a real partnership with companies and the public sector. We have here a very successful example we're talking about and we are witnessing, EFS. We don't consider them as a partner, we consider them as a family member of Emirates Foundation. We work together to achieve main goal, is helping the community and boosting sustainable community development. This is the role Emirates Foundation has been working with since the beginning. This is what we have to do, and this is inshallah what we will achieve by the end of the day. I would like to thank Mr. Tarak and EFS to be part of this journey. And we welcome any business or private sector that they feel they have a role to do here with us and to join us in this journey. As you know, Dawamee is a platform being created, and their goal is to find opportunities for the young Emiratis to enter the market of employment. And we find out there is some challenges in different areas and different sectors. So one of them, and because I think it reaches or it comes in the right moment, especially with what's going on in the world now from the pandemic. Many of businesses have stopped going back to their offices. Many of businesses face different challenges and danger by being together in the office. So they created what they call it now the work from home or the virtual working. So we find it is something doable. It is something that we can depend on, and the outcome is amazing. So it opened the doors for the people, especially young Emiratis who are in a very remote areas, or it's not easy for them to commute for their jobs. So this opens the door, and we target Emiratis 18 years and above. Partnership, as we said, with EFS and other partners will help and will open doors for those young Emiratis to start their life and to be part of the community and society, and not to be a burden on the community. In short, I think it's important to have similar webinars and gathering to explain the rules and what we are doing. And it's good even to witness the achievement and to celebrate it. Eid is coming, so inshallah next week, I wish everyone a happy Eid and safe with your family. And inshallah, we'll meet again in different occasion and different timing, celebrating the success of UAE and the world, inshallah, on this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Inshallah, and also we would like to wish you an early Eid Mubarak, Mr. Mohanna. Thank you so much for your inspiring words. I would now like to introduce Mr. Tarak Chauhan, the CEO of EFS, who will explain how his organization and Emirates Foundation have done so much to make a difference in the lives of UAE nationals through the services of Dawamee platform. Mr. Tariq Chauhan.
Assalamu alaikum. First, I would like to compliment the team of Dawamee for making this dream come true. Back in 2010, I wrote an article in Gulf News talking about the need for Emiratization and how it is important and critical for private sector to bring in more Emiratis into the workforce. Over the last 10 years, there has been opportunities, Toteen, Afshar, various other programs where we had, mashallah, many Emiratis in the organization. But Dawamee is a path breaker. I must say, what this particular program has accomplished, we didn't do it over the last 10 years in just 6 to 9 months. I must compliment the entire Dawamee team, the people, those who have envisioned this program. The program is very interesting. It has something which brings in so many facets. And these were the certain deterrents in the past many years people were referring to in context to bringing Emiratis into the workforce. So I think the program is very interesting. What we have accomplished over the last 6 to 9 months, inshallah, much more is coming up our way. And I think how we can embolden this program, how we can make it to reach out to many more people among Emiratis, as well as to the private companies. I am in the process of putting together a comprehensive case study of this particular program for presenting it to the rest of the private sector community, why they should go for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tariq Chauhan. We truly look forward to you sharing your experience with the Dawamee program and Emirates Foundation to achieve this fruitful partnership. We now begin in our discussion. I would like to begin by asking the audience on their opinion on the live voting. You may share your opinion by clicking on the link shared in the chat box or by scanning the code on the screen. The question being asked for your opinion is, how receptive are you to creating new flexible jobs, whether it is part-time or remote working after COVID-19? As we can see here, okay. Perfect. As we can see here, 3.8 are with being receptive, 3.9 are with being receptive, and now 4.1, we can see the majority are with being receptive towards the new creating new flexible jobs, whether it is part-time or remote working after COVID-19, and 1.2 not receptive. Thank you very much for sharing your opinion. And we would now like to go back to Mr. Tarak. Mr. Tarak, my first question similarly is, what impact has COVID-19 had on the recruitment process, and how did EFS manage that successfully?
I think the biggest challenge that came along with COVID-19 was the concerns, health concerns, social distancing. Now, there was a challenge and opportunity within that challenge. As I always say, challenges have problems and opportunities both. So the problem is that how do you bring people to meet? In a normal routine recruitment process, initially people were required to come to an office and meet and then go through the process. However, along with the COVID came the telephony, the new telephony revolution with Zoom, with Teams and many other options. EFS was the first one to go on board with Teams much before pandemic. So we didn't have a challenge in interviewing people like many other organizations may have to prepare themselves. But EFS along with Dawamee team were able to interview people through Zoom calls and various other telephonic options. We were able to identify people within the categories we were looking as Dawamee. Now, within Dawamee, we had 4 or 5 categories in mind to bring on board. Housewives looking to work on a remote basis with specific capabilities in different areas. We had also the students who have gone through their graduation and looking for post-graduation and available to work for remote. For them, it was more not only about a job, but also to learn new things and as well to have some kind of financial compensation. So we had them in mind. And we had all these categories within the first Dawamee category. And as a matter of fact, I'm pleased to announce that of those initial candidates out of 13, more than 4 of them have been accepted as a full-time employees now. They were keen to expand their role. They were keen to work on longer hours. As well, they wanted to transform with the new skill and opportunities that EFS offered. So I must say EFS as a whole did not have any challenge in context to bringing more people on board. We almost hired close to over 1,200 people in UAE alone during the pandemic time. And of them, there is a reasonably good number of Emiratis, and retention of the workforce during this period or even providing them flexible opportunities was not a challenge. So I must say, EFS did not come through any challenges in context to the hiring process or retaining the employees during this period.
Thank you, Mr. Tarak. I believe we could see that EFS has been well prepared even prior to the pandemic. Our dearest audience, for the translation of Mr. Tarak's responses to all the questions being asked, please make sure to read the translation shared in the chat box. أعزائي المشاهدين، لترجمة ردود السيد طارق على الأسئلة المطروحة يرجى التأكد من قراءة الترجمة في الشات بوكس أو مربع الدردشة. Back to Mr. Tarak. My question to you is, what was your employment experience of national job seekers or employees during COVID-19?
One, I must compliment the rulers, the government, and the various thought leaders, those who are driving Emiratis to seek opportunities in the private workforce. And success of this can be seen with the response that we had from Emiratis when we advertised for multiple positions. Recently, for one of the largest government event, we did an Emiratization drive for recruitment. And I was surprised to see such a high response. And what more importantly in this drive, sitting across the table with these young Emiratis, that they are so keen to work in the private sector. They're keen to look at expanding their horizon in terms of their exposure. They want to transform themselves with new skills, and they see a definitive opportunity for them to learn many aspects. So it's not, earlier there was an indication, or to some extent there was a perception that the Marathis would only look at government jobs. Was that because of high salaries? To some extent, there could be a differential between the private and the government sector. But in the last 1 year, what I saw sitting across the table with these young Emiratis, I think that is changing. There are more Emiratis interested to work in private sector. Well, the private sector also has to be careful, because to succeed with Emiratization is not just about a job opportunity. It's also about working to prepare them to come to the private sector in context to the cultural integration. I have always emphasized upon the fact that private sector cannot succeed by just bringing people on board unless they work on the diversity approach, unless they work on the integration of the Emiratis into the cultural integration of the Emiratis into the private workforce.
And during COVID-19, how was your employment experience?
The employment experience, we were impacted because of the visa issues due to social distancing and various others, whilst Emirati workforce did help us in meeting some of those key business continuity challenges. Because what happened, that visas were not available, flights were blocked, we had certain interruptions, but since we had Emirati workforce in certain departments and others, and they were able to basically work across these limitations, and we had a very successful, I must say, experience in context to Emiratis, especially when it coming to the COVID guidelines and the various interruptions that may have come along. They were very, very proactive.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Tariq, for sharing your successful experience, even during the COVID-19. That is quite inspiring. I also would like to know, how did EFS adapt to the new job categories, such as remote working, part-time jobs? Did COVID-19 create the rationale for EFS to implement those opportunities for those that require such flexibility?
Well, there is a lot of discussion happening at the moment with regards to transformation that is taking place on workplaces. So the entire workplaces has gone through a significant transformation, and remote working is no more an option, but it almost became a necessity. Now, I still believe that a large number of people will still opt to be working from office, but there is a new workforce that has come on board, which is the remote working. Now, who are these remote workers? Are these regular workers who earlier were coming to office? No. If we talk about the experience of Dawamee, there are large number of them are housewives wanting to earn additional money, but also it's not only about money, it's also about their overall empowerment. If you give an opportunity to a housewife to have 4 to 5 hours or 3 to 4 hours to be able to create in a more productive manner, that doesn't mean that they're not productive at home, looking after the family. That's also critical and essential. But a part of that work, if it can be productively used to help to accomplish not only financial means, but also their ability in their overall development of their faculties. I was surprised to see that in the Dawamee, we had women with accounting experience. There were women with supply chain experience. There are women who have HSEQ backgrounds. And I'm surprised that all of them have been able to, in a routine course, they were able to spend 4 to 5 hours. Some of them even have spent more hours. And out of them, at least 30% of them have opted to work on full-time basis. So it's an ideal, I must say, an opportunity to bring in more women and more, not only women alone, even men as well. As I have earlier indicated in my previous discussion, this offers opportunity for multiple people. For entrepreneurs running their own small businesses have the opportunity to work through remote working and can earn something to support their businesses, as well will learn new ways of doing business. Same for students who have done their graduation and looking to do masters and wanting to raise money, have an opportunity to work through this part-time program. And the similar opportunities available for even people who are looking to be in people with determination, those who may not have the physical ability to be in the workplace due to the logistics and the various aspects. And I think all these opportunities is an avenue. And I think that's what EFS have very well captured. We were able to map it the moment the Dawamee was introduced to us. However, to make it happen, I must say it's a great teamwork between the EFS and the Dawamee team. And I would like to compliment every single stakeholder within Dawamee, more especially to talk about Aisha, Mr. Jamal, Jawad in my team, Saima, all of you have worked hard to put together a great success. And I think that's what we have accomplished.
Amazing. Thank you very much. As I can see, this gives a chance to all UAE nationals to join. As you mentioned, whether it is the housewives or small business owner, that is amazing and gives opportunity for all. I would like to remind my dearest audience, for all the translation of Mr. Tarak's responses to all the questions being asked, please read the translation shared in the chat box. أعزائي المشاهدين، لترجمة ردود السيد طارق على الأسئلة المطروحة يرجى التأكد من قراءة الترجمة في الشات بوكس أو مربع الدردشة. Again, we would like to ask the audience to share their opinion on live voting by clicking on the link or scanning the code shown on the screen. This time, our question is, considering the current challenges and pandemic, have you encountered difficulties in localizing some flexible jobs, whether it is part-time or remote working? Okay. As we can see here, my dearest audience, 50%.
60.
We are growing. Majority. The majority shown, over 60%, that no, they have not faced any challenges during the pandemic. If they have encountered any difficulties, whether localizing some flexible jobs. We can see that majority have not faced any challenges or difficulties, and not really. Difficulties are 15% to 15%. So the majority, we can see here, they did not face any difficulties during the pandemic to localizing some of these flexible jobs. Thank you very much for sharing your opinion. And we will go back to Mr. Tarak. Mr. Tarak, we would like to know from your point of view, what are the best ways to attract UAE nationals or recruit the UAE nationals?
I think the first most important thing we need to do, we got to educate both private sector and the entrepreneurs there who are leading the private sector to make an outreach to UAE nationals, running them through the opportunities that exist for them. But more importantly, they need to prepare themselves. They need to be ready to provide a seamless culture where Emiratis don't see themselves as aliens. They should be, they are very productive, they're very talking to you and what you have accomplished. Just a small exercise of this entire webinar, along with the Dawamee team, a young girl with very limited exposure in the past, you were able to make this as a reality. And this is the opportunity which people should see beyond. I want private sector, before we start putting on Emiratis, I don't want, yes, monetarily, there could be certain, there is a definitive differential between the private sector and the public sector. Keeping aside the banking institutions, because they were the first one at the very early stages to accomplish a much more higher Emiratization. But the more important is not the salary is not the only deterrent, and it should not be a deterrent. If you create a more open environment to present the case, Emiratis are a part of the essential sustainability in the long run. Emiratization is not an option, but a necessity. I don't think, irrespective of whatever the demographics is, Emiratis are essential for the long-term future of the workplace in UAE. Many countries have already realized, and they are already in that ground. UAE, mashallah, has initiated this, but they did it in a manner where they have given the flexibility for business to decide. But I can assure businesses that should we work carefully, should we evaluate our policies, we ensure that their progression, it's not only an issue about bringing them on board. I'm not looking to bring Emiratis on board only in the lower sections of my executive workforce. I would want them to be the part of the core workforce. And you can, financially, you can bring them at the initial stages, but work on their progression and development in such a manner that you are able to take care of any of the parallel offers they might receive from the government. You can outsmart the government through a progression approach. So progression and development, along with the right hiring process, is the ultimate way to succeed with Emiratization in the long run. But you just don't bring them and you got to develop them. You need to give them a progression and development opportunity. And I think private sector is something can definitely attract this new millennials and Gen Zs. Because I can assure you, I've been to many colleges and universities and we had a good response. However, the response alone at the initial stages will not work unless the private sector works on a full comprehensive strategy to ensure that they retain, because attrition is one big challenge that often people refer to. We are not able to handle. There is a large turnover of Emiratis, but I can assure you we have succeeded in Abu Dhabi and Al-Ain, and I can assure you we can work across the board. However, you require a complete preparedness. You need a complete preparedness. You need to ensure that you go through the multiple critical steps that are required to support Emiratization, and long-term sustainability of the organization must be integrated with this approach.
Truly motivational words, Mr. Tarak. Thank you very much for sharing. And to what extent do you agree on the importance of integrating UAE nationals into the private sector, and why?
I would 100% agree with it. I don't think there is an alternative option. And why it is important? Because you got to realize that the world is changing. You can have, why Emiratis only in your local workforce? I operate in 23 countries. we have about over 20,000 people. I would want to expand the culture to bringing Emiratis not just in UAE, but to expand them to the other countries as well, because there are more Emiratis interested to work overseas than only in UAE. So you could give an option to the people onto that. I'm very, very sure and very convinced that Emiratization is the necessity, and it is the only amongst many other sustainability elements for business continuity, for long-term development of the company or enterprise. Uh, they have to be the part of it. I intend to make at least, if not 50%, my aim at least to 25% of Emiratis in my UAE workforce to be representing in different across the organizational workforce.
Thank you, Mr. Tarak. I believe we all look forward to being there towards achieving your visions. And what opportunities do you see after UAE nationals have joined your workforce? And does that encourage other companies to adopt such dynamics, such as Dawamee program?
I think what is very essential for a program like Dawamee, that we need to do multiple roadshows. We need to educate people. We need to create a more comprehensive case study with specific data. Data speaks for itself. And if you are able to provide the right case studies, and not just simple webinars, this is much more than what exactly we can accomplished. So if we have brought in 15 Dawamis in our core workforce, and we are able to convert at least 1/3 of them into the permanent workforce, and able to provide another 15 in the next batch of Emiratis, we need to make them integral to this case study. We need them to guide and tell the rest of the other people what they have accomplished. Today, we have some very important case studies. We have some good success stories, especially in the recent Dawamee incumbents that we have, how they have accomplished multiple goals, not just simply a housewife, whilst able to work, was able to earn extra, but also able to learn new things, was able to do a better quality of life, was able to provide a better quality of life to her family, as well learn new things. A educated and elevated housewife can add on more to the value in the overall development of the family, and Dawamee's one such program can bring many more housewives to be able to work through this remote opportunity.
Thank you very much for such motivational response. Thank you. Dearest audience, as mentioned earlier, the translation for Mr. Tarak's responses to all the questions being asked, you may find the translation in the chat box. يا أعزائي المشاهدين، لترجمة ردود السيد طارق على الأسئلة المطروحة يرجى التأكد من قراءة الترجمة في الشات بوكس أو مربع الدردشة. We would like to thank you, Mr. Tarak, for your motivational words. And last but not least, over the next 10 years, what is your vision for Emiratization?
I think if we just simple number of jobs that are likely to be created with the expansion of the economy, with the Vision 2040 in Dubai, with Abu Dhabi's vision, and the UAE as a whole, the economy is likely to go leaps and bounds in the next many years. I'm of the opinion there would be close to 200,000 jobs that will be created over the next few years. And we need to see much larger Emiratis coming into that workforce. They are, mashallah, good to take on new challenges. I don't think there is any facet within our core business, for example, in the business of facility management, we manage almost 70 to 80 services. And within that, there are about 30 to 40 disciplines, different kind of disciplines. Now, if I look at it, in the last 10 years, I had a limited success. But what we have accomplished in the last 1 year and what I'm seeing with the new candidates coming up in the job market, with many more Emiratis coming in, I think it's no more something of a future. It is a reality, and it's a distant reality. It's not a distinct reality, it's a distant. It is something which is coming up soon. So I'm very sure that we will be able to do much more emphatically. And I think with partnership of Dawamee, with many other partnerships that I would like to form with the various agencies, EFS is definitely poised for at least its dream of having at least 20% of its workforce from the Emirati from the Emiratis.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
I believe we all look forward to witnessing or being a part of this vision of yours, and for our audience to have similar aspirations, and after you have shared your own experiences and visions. Now for the audience, once more, we would like to ask the audience to share their opinion on the live voting by clicking on the link or the code shown on the screen. Now, our question to you as well is, in the coming years, what is your vision of Emiratization for you, for your flexible jobs? As we can see here, we have 50%. There is a clear vision. Okay. We can see here in the graph showing that there are 40% that there is a clear vision of Emiratization for flexible jobs, going over 50%, over 60%, and now above 60 to 70% have a clear vision of Emiratization for flexible jobs in the upcoming years. And 25%, there is a vision in the preparation stage, and just 8%, a very small percentage, that shows no vision yet. Thank you very much for everybody sharing their opinion on the live voting. And now we would like to share some success stories that has emerged from the fruitful partnership of Emirates Foundation and EFS.
Dawamee program has an excellent platform to hire the right candidate for the right position and location.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dawamee for inviting us to join this program. It's been for the last a decade I was waiting for a program like this that gives us the opportunity to integrate UAE nationals into our core workforce.
The Dawamee program gave us the opportunity to build careers for UAE nationals in the FM industry. The candidates who joined us were the right fit for the roles we were looking for. We probably would have not got a better candidates elsewhere.
أنا مسجل في منصة دوامي مؤسسة الإمارات، ومن خلال 4 سنوات كنت أبحث عن عمل، والحمد لله عن طريق المنصة حصلت على عمل بدوام جزئي في شركة EFS، واليوم هو أول يوم دوام لي.
أبحث عن عمل منذ 3 سنوات، وعبر منصة دوامي حصلت على وظيفة عمل عن بعد ولله الحمد، واليوم أول يوم دوام.
أبحث عن العمل منذ 5 سنين ولله الحمد تم توظيفي في هذه الشركة بدوام جزئي. هذه الفرصة ممتازة جدا لي لتحسين مهاراتي وكسب الخبرة والعمل مع الفريق والتعلم على بيئة العمل بشكل عام.
بعد 6 أسابيع حصلت على مهارات وظيفية في مجال مؤهلي العلمي، وأشكر منصة دوامي لإتاحتهم هالفرصة. أشجع أخواني وأخواتي التسجيل في منصة دوامي للحصول على عمل جزئي.
شكرا.
All very much. That was some success stories that has emerged from the fruitful partnership of Emirates Foundation and the EFS. And we are yet to see even a larger number to be shared. Before we conclude our webinar, dear audience, we would like you to join us in a Q&A. Please share your questions in the chat box. Please feel free to join our Q&A to share your questions, and we will be able to respond to the questions. Okay. Do you think other countries will follow UAE's example of increasing the workforce with local candidates, UAE national candidates?
Is that means the UAE candidates in other countries?
Yes, or will follow the UAE's example.
No, UAE example, UAE was the pioneer and were the first ones back in early 2000 in introducing the Emiratization drive. It has come with so many different programs. And if actually businesses really understand the opportunities and the benefits of these programs, they will really be able to quickly take on. The last 5 Emiratization drive in different programs have all many aspects of opportunities for companies to leverage. Not only that it helps you, these SOPs help you in terms of reducing your cost, but it also gives you the opportunity to expand your workforce, and some of the deterrents that you have in business can be supported through the Emirati workforce. There are definitive roles which can add significant value to Emiratis. It should not be the government relations. It should not be only HR. There are opportunities. So I can assure you that UAE has definitely been a pioneer in that. And Dawamee is the rarest of the rare that I have seen since we operate in 23 countries, and we have a presence in all the GCC countries as well. Dawamee is one such way to expand the cause of nationalization of local workforce in the larger workforce of the country.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Tarak. Let's move forward on to the next question. With COVID-19 making a lot of people work from home for a long period of time, do you see this type of employment as a permanent policy even after the pandemic?
We need to be very innovative. I don't want to advocate that all jobs can be done through remote. I will also not recommend that more than 60% jobs can be done remote. But yes, there can be a right mix of remote and on the job in terms of physical presence. However, the way industry is evolving, the way technology is coming, the artificial intelligence, I am very sure that at least 1/3 of jobs will eventually become permanently remote.
Amazing, thank you. Since this is from, okay, we have another question. Since you are an Emirati, okay, what do you feel about this program and Emiratis in EFS?
This is a question to you.
As an Emirati, I do believe that this program or programs or platforms such as Dawamee give a great opportunity for all UAE nationals. As you have mentioned previously as well, this is opportunity for whether it is women that have children at home. It's understanding and being considerate towards situations, whether it's a family they have back at home. So that gives them an opportunity as well to show their productivity, to be a part of a company. As well as Mr. Tarak said, this is an opportunity for the small business owners, for students. I have gone through that experience as a student once in previously as a student in university. Such platforms do indeed allow you to become a part of the company, to grow in your future as well as study in the same time. So I do feel this is a great opportunity to begin your career through a program such as Dawamee. Let's take another question. If the new normal is working from home, do you think other organizations will implement these kind of schemes?
I think world at large have adopted it. I don't think anyone has shunned remote working. Depending on each business and their needs, everyone is evolving. And it is a new normal, no doubt. How many of the workforce will be working remote, how much will be normal? It is purely depending on the business, nature of the business. But yes, we should accept the fact that it is a new normal.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Can we take a few more questions as well? We have Anonymous. Do you feel that flexi time or remote working affects productivity? And do these new working procedures have a positive effect on employee satisfaction?
Yeah, there is a very interesting debate, and I've been participating in many such webinars where they've asked me to comment on this aspect. Now, your preparedness in context to processes, systems, procedures is critical, that you have the right technology and you have the right environment to support remote working. Productivity will only be impacted if you're not prepared. Now, preparedness, both in context to the platform, the right platform. Second is your own discipline. Right. Irrespective of where you operate from, you need a discipline at a workplace. And a discipline at workplace, be it home or be it a beach or be in office, it requires a fundamental basic discipline. Should you have the discipline and you have the right infrastructure, I don't think this should be a challenge to make it as a new normal or somebody to adopt it.
Absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you very much. Another question is, dear sir, great webinar. One question. What are the top 2 challenges in Emiratization in the UAE, especially in the private sector?
In the private sector, okay. So first of all, there is a general perception the Emiratis have a different rules of engagement in context to workplace. I would say that is not true. What you require is a proper integration, and your initial recruitment process must not be for a namesake you bring an Emirati. You need to ensure that you have a right fit. It meets all your basic requirements. Thirdly, you have prepared your workplace to encourage them to be at work. Second is, during the employment period, you provide also equal opportunities. You also provide them progression and development avenues so that their progression can help to meet financial issues that often arise between the government salaries and the local salaries. Second is, you also help them to find to make them as a part of the mainstream rather than just keeping them in one or two other roles.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thank you for complimenting or on the webinar. I hope that answers your question. Thank you, everyone. Well, that's it for our Q&A. Thank you for who has shared their questions. I hope we responded to all the questions. And finally, well, ladies and gentlemen, that more or less brings us to the end of today's webinar, which has certainly enlightened our outlook on the work of that Emirati Foundation, Dawamee, and EFS are carrying out this important field. Finding the right jobs opportunities can be tough at the best times. So the fact that these successes have been achieved during the pandemic is praiseworthy indeed. For now, it just remains me to thank our speakers, Mr. Mohanna and Tarak Chauhan, for taking the time to explain how their partnership is benefiting Emiratis in the private sector and the UAE society.